You spend hours at the gym. You cut carbs. You track every single calorie. But a few months later, you're back where you started. That's because 95% of diets fail long term. Not because you're lazy, but because your body is wired to fight back. When you lose weight, your metabolism slows down and your hunger hormones like ghrelin skyrocket. Your body doesn't care about your summer goals. It only cares about survival. But here's what's fascinating. Japan has one of the world's lowest obesity rates at just 4.5%. That's almost 10 times lower than in the US. And yet they eat rice, noodles, and even snacks daily. So what's going on here? What do they know that we don't? It's not genetics. Japanese and American genes aren't that different. It's not smoking. Japanese men actually smoke more than Americans. And it's definitely not the gym. Only 3% of Japanese people even have a gym membership. The answer isn't about dieting harder. It's about living smarter. And once you understand how, you'll realize it's less about willpower and more about design. What's truly remarkable is that people who've lived in Japan for just weeks report dramatic weight loss while eating more than they did back home. One person lost 23 pounds in just 17 days. Another dropped from 168 to 145 pounds without even trying. Here are 9 science-backed habits the Japanese live by. Habits that can reprogram your relationship with food without starving yourself or living in the gym. Habit 1. Train your taste buds early. In Japan, food education starts in school. Every lunch is planned by a nutritionist, made fresh daily, and eaten together in class. No vending machines, no processed junk. Children grow up tasting real flavors. Vegetables, rice, fish, and that becomes the foundation of what normal tastes like. People who work in Japanese schools confirm these lunches are surprisingly tasty and well-balanced, with an incredible amount of variety. Meanwhile, American school lunches are run by profit-driven companies. Tater tots, chicken nuggets, chocolate milk. A factory diet that trains your brain to crave sugar and salt. Here's where it gets crazy. The key lesson is that taste is a habit. You can retrain it at any age. It takes just 2 weeks to reset your taste buds and get used to new foods. Start small. Replace one processed item a week with something fresh. One person tried this with Marmite, starting with a tiny dot on toast, and within 2 weeks was spreading it properly. Years later, they now enjoy it by the spoonful. Slowly, your brain starts craving real food again. And when you cut sugar by just 40% for 2 months, studies show you start perceiving sweetness as 40% sweeter. Your taste adjusts. You just have to give it time. Habit 2. Healthy convenience. Japan has 15 times more convenience stores than the US. But here's the difference. Their fast food isn't burgers or burritos. It's rice bowls with grilled fish, miso soup, fresh onigiris, quality bentos, or tofu for just a few dollars. Even their sandwiches are made with care and quality ingredients. Convenience doesn't have to mean junk, it just means available and easy. In psychology, this is called environmental design. We think we make choices, but in truth, our environment makes them for us. Japan simply makes good food the easy default. If American 7-Elevens had the same food that Japanese 7-Elevens have, people say they'd spend all their money there. But wait, your environment shapes you more than you realize. One visitor to the US described it as a culture shock. Burger joints, tacos, and pizza on every corner, everything greasy and sugary, with sodas cheaper than water. They struggled to find vegetables and gained significant weight in just 3 weeks. The cities weren't walkable either, requiring cars for everything, which meant even less movement. So if you want to eat better, don't fight your cravings. Change what's around you. Stock your fridge with portioned healthy snacks in containers. Keep dark chocolate, 70% or higher, on hand instead of milk chocolate. The rich, bitter flavor means you naturally eat less, but still satisfy cravings. Make the healthy choice the easy choice. Habit 3. Portion control without pain. Japanese culture values moderation deeply. There's even a saying, hara, hachi, eat until you're 80% full. This principle is a complete game changer for people who discover it. It's so much wiser than restrictive dieting because it teaches you to listen to your body rather than ignore it. Meals come in smaller dishes with variety: rice, soup, fish, vegetables, so your brain thinks you've eaten more than you have. Even small meals have many different items, like a standard lunch including 7 or 8 different things. This makes it seem like you're eating more. even though it's much less food than an American lunch. No giant sodas, no all-you-can-eat refills. Here's where it gets interesting. Portion size directly shapes hunger. Psychologically, it's called the unit bias. We feel satisfied when we finish what's served, not when our body is actually full. So smaller plates equals fewer calories equals no feeling of restriction. One person used a simple hack. Buy a 550, 650 ml glass lunchbox and only eat what fits inside. They dropped from size L to M in 1 month with ease. If they put the same food on a plate, they weren't aware of the amount and ate far more. Psychology really works. In the 1970s in the UK, portions were much smaller and obesity was virtually non-existent. Over the decades, as portions increased exponentially and we prioritized profits and convenience, we lost sight of the importance of health and well-being through food. Habit 4. Sugar awareness. The average Japanese person eats half the sugar an American does. Their drinks are smaller. A soda can in Japan is typically around 12 ounces, not the supersized American versions. Desserts are tiny but beautifully made, focusing on satisfaction through experience, not volume. That phrase, satisfaction through experience, not volume, is one people say they needed to hear. Japanese bakeries offer pastries that aren't overly sweet with processed sugar. Most have fresh fruit toppings and light whipped cream, tasting amazing without the sugar overload. Even their cakes and ice cream are much less sweet than Western desserts. But wait, try swapping one sugary drink for green tea. It's calorie-free, lowers stress, and boosts metabolism. When you cut sugar significantly, your palate adjusts faster than you think. In one study, people who reduced sugar intake by 40% for 2 months started perceiving sweetness as 40% sweeter. The real problem in the US is high fructose corn syrup added to virtually everything. It's in foods you wouldn't even expect, making it nearly impossible to escape sugar even when you're trying. Start reading labels. Replace processed snacks with fresh fruit. In the Netherlands, they eat fruit and vegetables as snacks, calling them candy tomatoes or candy cucumbers from childhood. By adulthood, it's just a natural habit. Habit 5. Structured eating. Most Japanese people eat 3 main meals at consistent times. Breakfast before 9, lunch by 1, dinner before 8. When your meals have rhythm, your hormones follow that rhythm too. It prevents random snacking, emotional eating, and late-night binges. People love this idea, that our bodies get into the same rhythm as our eating habits, naturally reducing cravings. Here's the truth. If your eating schedule is chaotic, your brain grabs whatever's nearby, often the worst option. Predictability is discipline's quiet twin. Start with fixed meal times and you'll notice your cravings start to calm down. Your body begins to anticipate when food is coming and stops sending constant hunger signals. One person struggling with SSRI medication side effects found that making healthy snack bags and eating regularly during the day stemmed off late-night cravings for sugar and sweets. The challenge, of course, is that many companies only give 30-minute lunch breaks, forcing people to rush through meals. This works against the Japanese approach, but even within those constraints, being mindful about when you eat consistently makes a difference. Habit 6. Move naturally. Japanese people don't work out, they move. They walk to the train, climb stairs, bike to work. Even with buses and trains, people still walk a lot from one place to another, and many use bikes constantly. Movement is built into their lifestyle, not added as a separate workout obligation. Here's where it gets crazy. Science calls this neat, non-exercise activity thermogenesis. Small movements that add up to big calorie burns without stress or guilt, just motion as part of living. One person visited Japan and walked around 40,000 steps every day while eating only Japanese food. Another tracked 8 kilometers of walking on every Tokyo visit. Someone teaching English there ate all the time but still lost significant weight. When they returned to their home countries and stopped moving as much, the weight came back, even when eating similarly. The difference isn't just the food, it's the movement woven into daily life. In Korea, it's similar. Relying on subways and buses forces you to walk. One person broke many healthy eating habits but still lost 20 pounds in a few months just from riding the subway to work daily. That core movement, all that non-exercise activity, is also good for your core muscles. A lot of perceived belly fat is simply loose muscle. Abs flatten your stomach and straighten your back and shoulders, which is especially important for office workers. But wait, you don't need to move to Japan to adopt this. Walk to the store when possible instead of driving. Take the stairs instead of the elevator. Park farther away. Stand while working for parts of the day. These micro movements compound over time into significant calorie expenditure and better metabolic health. Habit 7. Slow eating. Eating with chopsticks naturally slows you down for those not accustomed to them. It takes about 20 minutes for your brain to signal fullness, and by eating slower, you give it that time. Though some commenters noted that Japanese people actually eat quite fast and don't talk as much during meals as Americans do, the general principle still holds. Mindful, present eating leads to consuming less. If you don't use chopsticks, try this. Put your fork down between bites. Chew thoroughly. Some were taught to chew every mouthful 10 times. Breathe. Enjoy. You'll eat less and feel better. Here's the challenge. For many of us, eating slowly is incredibly hard. Years of rushing through lunch, scrolling through emails, working through breaks have trained us to eat fast. One teacher spent 35 years racing through lunch and admits struggling to slow down even now. But it's worth practicing. Give yourself the mantra chew when eating if you're very hungry. Put down your fork. The simple act of pausing between bites can transform your relationship with food. Habit 8. Respect the meal. In Japan, people don't eat on the go. No phones, no scrolling, no multitasking. Meals are a moment of respect, almost like a mini ceremony. Before eating, they say itadakimasu, I humbly receive. After eating, gochisousama deshita, thank you for the meal. These phrases show how much Japanese people respect every meal, honoring the food and the farmers who grew it. Here's where it gets powerful. This mindfulness changes everything. When you eat slowly, intentionally, you reconnect with your body's signals: hunger, fullness, satisfaction. No phones means no distractions pulling you away from the experience of eating. It's about being present. The Japanese don't just eat, they experience their meals. Compare this to eating while driving, scrolling social media, or watching TV. You finish your plate without even remembering what you ate. Your brain never registered the meal, so you're still searching for satisfaction. The magic isn't in Japanese genetics, it's in their design. Smaller plates, slow eating, fixed meal rhythms, and daily micro movements keep insulin calm and hunger hormones predictable. They don't diet harder. They design their environment so the body stays slim on autopilot. But wait, there's an important balance to acknowledge here. Japan isn't a paradise free from food issues. With access to cheap convenience store food and fast food, it's actually quite easy to gain weight in Japan too. The reason obesity rates are lower has as much to do with social pressure. Body positivity there is minimal, and fat shaming starts at lower weights than in Western countries. People aren't more liberated from diet culture and eating disorders just because obesity rates are lower. Also, the traditional Japanese approach is evolving. 20 years ago, these habits were more universal. But now, Japan is filled with vending machines and burger joints are becoming popular as food consumption becomes more Western. The point isn't to romanticize Japan as perfect, but to extract the wisdom from their traditional approach. The real secret: balance, rhythm, respect. The Japanese secret isn't a mystery diet. It's a mindset. Balance, rhythm, respect. It's about gentle, nourishing habits instead of punishing restriction. Small bowls, real food, fermented dishes for gut health, and then letting your body catch up. When you stop fighting your body and start listening to it, staying slim stops being a battle and simply becomes who you are. Here's what you can do starting today. Pick just one habit to start with, whichever feels easiest for you this week. Maybe it's portion control with smaller plates. Maybe it's structured eating with fixed meal times. Maybe it's swapping one sugary drink for green tea. Maybe it's putting your fork down between bites. Maybe it's changing your environment by stocking healthy convenience foods. The beauty of this approach is that it's less about perfection and more about quiet balance. Simple habits done with intention and gratitude nurture not just physical fitness but mental calmness and self-awareness. True wellness comes from small, consistent actions, not dramatic overhauls that fail within weeks. But here's the reality check. Some of these habits are harder to implement in certain environments. If you work night shifts, structured meal timing becomes nearly impossible. If you're working 10 hours a day, 5 days a week without livable wages, walking 30 or 45 minutes to the grocery store isn't convenient. If healthy, fresh, organic food is incredibly expensive, while processed foods are subsidized and affordable, the choice isn't really about discipline. It's about economics. American infrastructure is built around vehicles, not walking. The grocery store requires a car to reach, meaning you need a giant refrigerator to store bulk purchases. In older countries, grocery stores are close enough to walk to daily, so you buy fresh food in small amounts. These are real structural challenges. Here's where it gets hopeful. Even within those constraints, small shifts matter. You can't change your city's walkability overnight, but you can. Park farther away when you do drive. Take one flight of stairs instead of the elevator. Eat your lunch without your phone for one meal a week. Buy one fresh vegetable and figure out how to prepare it. Use a smaller plate for dinner tonight. One small change compounds into another, and another, until suddenly you've created a new normal without fighting yourself the entire way. The gamification approach. Here's a fun strategy one person used. Gamify your relationship with new foods. Start with the letter A. Try new vegetables every week following the alphabet. Try them once, cooked or eaten properly. If you like them, great, add them to your diet. If you hate them, no pressure, never eat them again. No guilt, no forcing, just curiosity and experimentation. It's that simple. It helps to find restaurants that can serve you something new if you can't cook it yourself. But if you level up and make it yourself, you improve your cooking skills too. Within months, you'll have expanded your palate dramatically without any of the misery of dieting. But wait, what about the people who say, just do IFAD, or just do calories in, calories out? Here's the thing. Those approaches work for some people. If you can sustain them, fantastic. But for most people, they don't address the deeper psychological and environmental factors that drive eating behavior. You can white-knuckle your way through calorie restriction for a while. The Japanese approach isn't about willpower at all. It's about design. It's about creating a life where the healthy choice is the easy choice, the natural choice, the default choice. What about those who can't lose weight? Some people have insulin resistance, metabolic syndrome, or other health conditions that make weight loss extraordinarily difficult. Japanese people generally are not insulin resistant at the same rates as Americans. Getting that fixed, working with a doctor, potentially medication, addressing underlying hormonal issues can make these habits actually work. Without addressing the root metabolic dysfunction, even perfect habits might not move the scale. Here's the nuance. Genetics do play a role. Some people's bodies hold on to weight more stubbornly than others. Some people are naturally leaner. That's reality. But the obesogenic environment we've created amplifies genetic predispositions. Put someone genetically predisposed to weight gain in Japan's food environment with their movement patterns, and they'll likely weigh less than in America's environment. Put someone genetically lean in America's environment, and they'll likely gain weight over time. The Japanese approach works with your biology instead of fighting it. Similar patterns exist in Italy, where it's a revelation that your entree doesn't need a side, your sandwich doesn't need chips, your burger doesn't need fries. Coffee and soda don't have sizes, everything is small. Coming back to the US from Italy feels insanely gluttonous. In post-war Britain during the 1960s, there was no obesity. The habits described here, eating until you feel you could eat more, chewing thoroughly, walking daily, never snacking between meals unless it's fruit, were all common. People were slim and healthy. It's not uniquely Japanese. It's that bad, greedy corporations got control and destroyed the culture we had in many Western countries. But in Japan, they resisted longer. Traditional Indian eating habits are similar. Variety of food in small portions on one plate, giving necessary nourishment while making you feel full. In Taiwan, they eat handmade foods like noodles, dim sum, and bread. Their drinks are mildly sweet, which is a pleasant surprise for visitors. You walk a lot there too. Here's the pattern. Traditional food cultures around the world share common wisdom. We abandoned this wisdom in pursuit of convenience and profit. Now we're paying for it with our health. Where's the lowest hanging fruit? Small, consistent actions, done with intention and gratitude. And it's available to anyone willing to start. Not tomorrow, not Monday, not after the holidays. Today. Right now. With one small choice. What will yours be?